Hello everyone, welcome live to 3YTV and the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here from one of the oldest racetracks in the entire world. It is the Milwaukee Mile here for tonight's 150 lap race. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here this week will be Mitchell Adams. Drew Eisenman has the night off here tonight. And Mitchell, you went out, you did a couple of laps at this racetrack, very flat, but a lot of fun. We're expecting a good show here tonight.
Yeah, definitely a track we expect to put on a show. Short tracks always tend to bring the action here in the NSRA, and this one, very flat, hot, slick track. Drivers are going to be sliding around and struggling to get these trucks to turn tonight, and I think it's going to put on a great show for us here in the booth. Yeah,
I'm very much looking forward to this one. This, in my opinion, Mitchell, is one of my favorite racetracks in all of iRacing. It's just so flat. It's a real driver's racetrack. It has different grooves out there. You can run on the white line. You can run below the white line. This looks like Justin White found the white wall down there. That's not the line you want to run. But the way you race this racetrack is very dependent from one driver to the next. And that makes for a lot of good, clean, hard racing, as Jason Gracia is finding the pit lane here, just heading down there. Some new paint schemes out there here tonight. This is one of those, the 57 machine of Joshua Sobel right here on your screen. Of course, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Mitchell, a great look on that number 57 right here tonight.
Yeah, definitely a really nice paint scheme. I love the colors you said for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know maybe we'll see quite a few more of those schemes. I know that's something the NSRA has done in the past, but definitely a good looking truck. I know I'm jealous of it. I can't paint worth anything, Peter. I don't know about you, but whenever I see paint schemes like that, he goes for a little slide out of turns 3 and 4. But yeah, great looking truck for Josh Sobel here tonight.
Yeah, we will see some other new looks in the field here tonight. There is a familiar look. The number 39 machine of Stan Hausman got Beer Street Journal on that Ford F-150. Of course, last night, the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series in the National Sim Racing Association was at Lucas Oil Raceway Park. And Mitchell, I think we'll just kind of leave that one to the side. Won't get your opinion on all that, but last night was a very interesting race. Just to put it one way, and make sure if you did not check that one out, you do so here on 3YTV. But the Beer Street Journal number 39 of Stan Hausman here tonight, currently 10th position in this practice session. Also out there on the racetrack is the 24 of Brandon White. There he is with the number 25 just outside of him. That is Randy Perdue. Remember last week's we had the Randys on Row 4. It was the Row 4 Randys, but currently Randy Perdue is well down the order in 19th. Kind of just showing that this racetrack, Mitchell, it's tricky. It's a driver's racetrack, but it isn't for everyone. It kind of takes a unique skill set and driving style to be successful here.
Yeah, I think this week in the in the NSRA, we've seen 3 great tracks where really are drivers' tracks. I think Wednesday they were at iRacing Super Speedway, last night Lucas Oil, and tonight Milwaukee. And those are tracks that really you can approach the race so many different ways. Some drivers are going to be fast out of the gate here tonight, but short tracks can always create some drama as we see someone spin out of turn 4 there. And some drivers are going to go into this race just wanting to kind of take it easy and run around and make it to the finish, because sometimes being in more up toward the front and aggressive battles, that can get you in not so good places here. So definitely I'm excited to see the different strategies drivers going to take as we see the 10 of Monty Glover running through 3 and 4 as practice is about to wind up here, Peter, and we're going to roll it into qualifying.
Yeah, so fastest driver in practice, Chris Darling. We know that Chris is very, very quick at this racetrack, so he will technically, quote-unquote, win practice. You don't get any points for being fastest in practice, but it definitely shows some might. So we will be keeping our eyes on Chris Darling here in this qualifying session. Of course, it is the qualifying session brought to you by our friends over at craigsetupshop.co.uk. And I'll tell you what, Mitchell, those setups that they have over at Craig's Setup Shop are lightning quick. super, super awesome, and awesome to have them on board here all season long for awarding the fastest driver in qualifying. It's going to be fun to see which one of these drivers picks up that pole position award, because here tonight it could mean quite a bit, because this track, it's pretty flat, and sometimes that lends itself to pretty much single file racing.
Yeah, definitely a challenging track where a lot of track position early really will play an advantage, because if you can get up front, you don't have to work as hard later in the race. So definitely drivers put a lot of emphasis on qualifying, especially going into tracks like this where you really don't know what to expect. As we're looking at the 7 truck of Garrett Gleason in another pink car, I'm assuming for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Peter, as well. This is, see, I'm bad at getting the numbers. My screen's really blurry. The 54, maybe? Yeah, Matt Cherry. That's a nice looking Stay Tuned Sports truck. That's a new one I haven't seen also. I really like that one.
Yeah, that is a new look on the 54 of Matt Cherry here tonight. So throwing away the green and changing over to the white. Big wiggle out of the back of the number 54. Kind of a signature move from Matt Cherry. Seems like no driver has a happier rear end coming out of the corner than Matt Cherry over the opening first few races of the season. We'll take a look at the point standings here in just a little bit before you go over into the race session. But Phillip Scott, second fastest in the practice session. Well, he just pulled off the racetrack, but he is actually, believe it or not, the fastest so far, just pipping the driver who was fastest in practice, Chris Darling. So kind of Phillip Scott and Chris Darling changing positions between each other from practice into qualifying, at least right now. But we're keeping our eyes on the 77, Doug Neal, currently third on the board. Great qualifying run for Doug Neal. And Ben Mashburn slotted himself up into fourth. So some of these drivers here turning some really good laps as Jason Gracias now jumps up to sixth.
Yeah, all the drivers up toward the top of the board. Phillip Scott, second fastest in practice. Chris Darling, fastest in practice. Doug Neal also with a really good practice time. Those drivers translated their speed really well over to qualifying, as we're riding on board with the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. as he comes out of turn 4. You can see kind of how wide that exit of turn 4 is. It can almost be deceptive, because you see all that room and you want to get the throttle down, but sometimes the truck doesn't like to turn, and that's another challenge these drivers face tonight. Is you can see that rear end maybe wiggle a little bit. It could be a little hard to see, but now you can kind of see him working the wheel, get in through 3 and 4. And Peter, you probably know a little bit more about the track than I do. What do you think about the line here he's got going on?
Well, he's kind of running that qualifying line. You know, this racetrack has some nuances to it, and we'll see whether or not he kind of pulls down onto the bottom of the track here on the backstretch. Looks like he's going to go out there, so it gives me some time to commentate. But if you watch here in turn number 3 and 4, you'll see a little bit of an opening. You also see that the racetrack isn't perfectly round. See that little opening there to the left-hand side? The racetrack actually has a little bit more banking, believe it or not, right down there by that opening. So you're going to want to try and get the race truck as close as you can to that rumble strip on exit to make use of that little bit more banking. And then turn number 1 and 2, you can also tell it's not round. It almost has a little ridge in the center of the corner. It kind of pokes out. So you almost have to diamond the corner here at this racetrack. The other way to run turns number 1 and 2 is to actually kind of go underneath that little jut out onto the track. Let's see if we can see it right here. You kind of can't see it. You couldn't quite see it there. But I'll tell you what, Mitchell, I don't know if you experienced that when you did some practice laps here, but turn number 1 and 2, a little bit deceiving with the way the center of the corner is and where that curve is relative to the inside of the racetrack through there.
Yeah, and usually I think you can see it here as he's going to go through turns 1 and 2. You can see the bottom of the racetrack's almost a different shade than the rest of the racetrack. That can also, for me, has always kind of thrown me off. But you can see it here where the racetrack kind of sticks out a little bit, I think is what you were talking about there, Peter. And you can kind of see where you're going around this turn, and then you hit that point in the track, and all of a sudden you're turning at a sharper angle than you were before, and that definitely can change things up, but qualifying's wrapped up here at Milwaukee, and it will be Phillip Scott held onto that pole, and he'll start this race off in first.
Yeah, so the number 99 machine right there is going to pick up your CraigSetupShop.co.uk pole position award. Congratulations to the Ninja himself. NationalNinja.com on the hood of the number 99. Goes by Ninja Phil. You can see that right above the driver's door. Congratulations, Phillip. You are tonight's CraigSetupShop.co.uk pole position award winner. But let's see if we can bring up the rest of tonight's starting lineup. Starting with our front row, Phillip Scott, Chris Darling. How about those two up at the front? Jason Gracias, Doug Neal on row number 2. Row number 3, Ben Mashburn, Josh Sobel, Nathan Maurer, Stan Hausman. On row number 4, Justin White, Matt Cherry, rounding out your top 10 here tonight.
Starting in 11th place is Jeffrey Johnson Jr. with Garrett Gleason to his outside. Randy Bledsoe, excuse me if I pronounced your name wrong, in 13th. Brandon White, 14th. Travis White and Adam Dama make up the next row with Vincent Valvano, Randy Perdue, and then TJ Buck and William Kerwin will round out your top 20.
21st position here tonight, Johnny Williams. Monty Glover will start 22nd. Nick Kessler, Doug Miller, 23rd and 24th. And just looking a little bit, well, nope, I take that back. That's it. I thought there was 25 cars here tonight, but I was mistaken. So all these drivers will get back around. Just waiting to see the green flag fly here tonight. That man right there, the number 99 of Phillip Scott, will be leading us to the drop of the green flag here tonight. 150 laps, 150 miles, and we are underway here at the Milwaukee Mile, Mitchell.
Yep, green flag is out. Phillip Scott got a decent restart, but Chris Darling really working it on that outside lane as he's going to take the lead as they head through turn 1. A great start for Chris Darling.
It is, sure enough, a fantastic start for Chris Darling. Gets himself up to the front. He said before the race to me that if he gets out front, he might as well come down pit road because that's the highest he's going to be all night to kind of quit while you're at the top. But Darling will come around to lead lap number 1. Phillip Scott in second. In third is Jason Gracias. Ben Mashburn has gotten around Doug Neal. So the number 4 now up to fourth, calling his own number. Meanwhile, side-by-side battle a little bit further back here. Stan Hausman racing back there with Justin White, Matt Cherry in this mix too. So a couple of the series sponsors there being shown with Stay Tuned Sports with Jimbo and Beer Street Journal on the number 39 of Stan Hausman. So great to see the sponsors not only sponsoring the league, but also sponsoring a couple of the trucks out there that we see here tonight. Here comes the number 81. That is Randy Bledsoe in the Peterbilt number 81. Great run in that Peterbilt machine last week. And we said we were going to bring it up, but the point standings, we do have the point standings. We will bring them up at some point here tonight and give you a lowdown on this point situation entering in tonight. And let's go check out the chat as well. Folks, we do have an announcement, and Brantley Roden has kind of already spoiled it for the chat. But Mitchell, we hit 1,000 subscribers, the big 1K here on YouTube. I think that means we get maybe a tinfoil play button or something like that. I don't know. But we hit 1,000 subscribers, and that's really cool. So thanks for jumping on in here tonight, Brantley, as well as RC Planes saying, Phillip on the pole. Let's go. Going to be a lot of fun here tonight, Mitchell.
Yep, looking forward to this race, and congrats, Peter, on the 1,000 subscribers. I know it's very difficult to do. I've been there and tried. So definitely a big milestone. Congratulations. I know how much work you put into this channel and everyone else at 3 Wide TV. I'm just lucky to have been able to be here for a few of these races.
So the field really getting strung out here, however. As you can see, it looks like Chris Darling has gotten on to a fairly decent lead out front. Looks like there is some side-by-side battle back around TJ Buck in the Bucky's number 84 machine. Right in front of him is Adam Dama with a new look on his machine. We saw the U.S. Army Esports Racing machine, now a new sponsor on that number 28, racing side-by-side with Randy Perdue, one of the Row 4 Randys from last week. And last week was a very, very interesting race here on 3 Wide TV, that is for sure. Of course, we were at Iowa Speedway for 200 laps there, and Jeff Price got the win. Phillip Scott, Randy Perdue rounded out our top 3 finishers, but it was a very interesting race all the way to the end. That is for sure. Hopefully we can see some good action here tonight, but things kind of calm here in the early going here, Mitchell. A lot of single file racing throughout the pack.
Yeah, there's little groups of cars that have formed up, but really mostly single file, as you do see a little battle for position here between the 24 of Brandon. No, that's not the 24, excuse me, that is somebody else. I do believe, oh, it's the 25, because I can't read numbers. That's Randy Perdue battling alongside, I think, TJ Buck in the 84, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is TJ. He's going to be able to take that position down the backstretch into turn 3, looking back up toward the front of the pack now. Ben Mashburn. I'm getting these numbers. Ben switched numbers on me. Ben Mashburn able to get around Jason Gracias, I believe, for the 3rd position. He's up from 5th place starting this race. So Ben Mashburn making moves toward the front, but out up front, it's still Chris Darling with a little lead over Phillip Scott in that 99. It's not too substantial. Phillip's definitely keeping pace with them, but these front 4 starting to break away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think you called it there perfectly. That sure enough, that number 4 changed numbers on you. He used to be number 24. Speaking of Ben Mashburn, now the number 24 is Brandon White. He's battling back there with Travis White. So we got 3 Whites in the field here tonight. We got Brandon White, we got Travis White, we got Justin White. And the number 2 is winning the battle between the Whites here tonight. He is currently in the 8th position as they run here, but still in the early runnings on lap number 11. These drivers have plenty of fuel in the tank here tonight, so don't expect to see a whole lot of pit stops, maybe 2 pit stops here tonight, unless we get a couple of caution flags. There is Justin White just in front of Matt Cherry. Both of these drivers, the 2 in the 54, have gained 1 spot from the drop of the green flag, but not many big movers so far in the field. TJ Buck and Nick Kessler, the 2 drivers who have both gained 4 positions. So things kind of, so far, fairly steady, but we're not even yet to that 10% mark. So there could be a long race ahead of us here tonight. Just checking on the chat. Fat Dog Racing saying congrats on 1,000 from your Larking section of watchers. Fat Dog, we appreciate it. We really enjoy having you guys, and jump on in the chat when you feel like it. We love to give shout outs, we love to commentate, and we love to interact with our viewers. And now that we've hit 1,000 subscribers, we have some cool things that are going to be coming down the pipelines here once YouTube gets us all set up, and we're all set up with YouTube, because once you hit the 1,000 person mark on YouTube, that's when YouTube gives you some more creation content, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can make it fun for everyone watching at home. Tristan Maher in the chat as well saying, wish I could be out there tonight. He loves this racetrack. Tristan, it's a shame that you are not, but it is good to see you here on 3Y TV, that is for sure. Meanwhile, up towards the front of the field, how about this? Battle for 3rd once again. Gracia is trying to get back by Ben Mashburn for 3rd, and looks like he's got him maybe a little bit of rear end damage on that number 1 MaxGrafix Chevy Silverado. I wonder if we saw a little bit of a bump and run a little bit earlier between the 1 and the 4. Either way, Gracia is now back to 3rd.
And Gracia is not content to run behind Ben Mashburn. Mashburn's still a competitive truck, so I keep an eye on these 2 to maybe switch positions back and forth. Meanwhile, riding on board with Phillip Scott in 2nd, you can see he's kind of closing in on the bumper of Chris Darling, your race leader. Kind of been sitting around this position. Hasn't gone more than, I think, a few tenths of a second back, as I think this is the closest he's been for several laps. You can see Darling kind of got a better exit there, but they had slightly different approaches to the exit of that corner. You see Phillip Scott entering the corner higher than Chris Darling. He's kind of running around a little bit higher up and then trying to get the straighter exit. Darling a little more lower entry, trying to diamond that corner, is what we were talking about earlier before the race started, Peter. Just different approaches from different drivers. Here looking further in the pack. At this battle for 16th, you see Vincent Valvano. He's got a little group of cars behind him. Good battle for 17th as well. There's good battles going on all the way throughout the pack, Peter, but mostly single file still. But it seems like everyone's able to break away from a few trucks, but then you get a little cluster, and then there's a little gap to another cluster of trucks. So there's a lot of different places for us to watch here tonight.
Yeah, and right now these are the 3 closest trucks out there on the racetrack, because there might have been a little bit of contact there between the 28 and the 88 of Adam Dama there, kind of in that copper-colored number 28 machine, and the number 88 right back behind him of Nick Kessler. Kessler trying to work his way through the field. Doug Milliner back behind them. You just saw him briefly in that shot. He's also picked up 4 positions. He wanted to sponsor the race here tonight about 5 minutes before the drop of the green flag, and he messaged me and said, hey, I want to make this race the Doug Milliner's Underwear Emporium. And he said that, you know, sometimes you have to get your racing stripes, and Doug Milliner's Underwear Emporium is where you can get them. I wasn't 100% sold on that, to be honest with you. Definitely makes for an interesting sponsor of a race, but maybe it's not out of the question for next week. So maybe give us a thumbs up in the chat if you want to see Doug Milliner's Underwear Emporium. If we can get 15 likes for this race, and hopefully the people watching will keep us updated on whether or not we get the 15 likes. If we get 15 likes for this race, I will guarantee that next week we will see the Doug Milliner's Underwear Emporium 200 or 150 if the race doesn't already have a sponsor. So if not, it will be the week after that or the next week that doesn't have a race sponsor already. So definitely hit that thumbs up button, folks.
Yeah, definitely would be an interesting race sponsor. I've seen some interesting sponsors in my time, Peter. I'm sure you have too, but that may be one of the more creative race sponsors I've seen. Is again looking up at this battle for the lead here. Phillip Scott's been able to close in on Chris Darling's bumper. We saw it just a lap or two ago. He was right on the bumper of Darling, headed into turn 1, but just had to kind of back off, maybe struggling in that dirty air a little bit, but Phillip Scott definitely has the pace. I think he's just struggling to find a way around Darling, and it's just kind of that short track we talked about. It can be hard to work the different groups because you can find speed in one groove where your competitor isn't running, but it's another thing to go past him, and I think we're seeing that with Phillip Scott. He definitely has speed, but overall he's not able to find a way to make it work around Chris Darling. He's using a little bit of that yellow curb there on the bottom of the racetrack, but don't sleep on Jason Gracias either in 3rd place. He's right on the bumper of Phillip Scott now too, so this battle between the top 3 starting to heat up here.
And looks like they're starting to catch up to some lapped traffic as well. That might be Johnny Williams in front of your leaders. In fact, I believe it is. Johnny staying high here on the racetrack out of turn number 4. Hopefully going to let all your leaders on by. Chris Darling last week, if you did not see it, and I know Chris will be probably upset with me for even mentioning this, got wrecked from the race lead by a lapped car who had spun around, and caution flag did not come out. The flagman was asleep, and there was no caution, and unfortunately there was absolutely nowhere for Chris Darling to go from the race lead to pit lane, and it was night done for the Taz Racing Customs Ford F-150. Of course, want to give a big shout out to Taz Racing Customs, another series sponsor, in fact, sponsor of the Biggest Mover of the Race Award, which at this moment in time would go to Nick Kessler, who has gained 6 positions from the drop of the green flag. But some weeks, Mitchell, we see people gaining 10, 15, 20 spots in the opening 20 laps. Not here tonight at Milwaukee, only +6 for Nick Kessler.
Yeah, I think drivers maybe being a little more patient. Not the easiest racetrack to pass on either. It's hard to set up a pass on a track like this where it really comes down to getting that corner exit and the straightaway speed. We kind of see that over the race, those numbers will kind of grow, but it's a lot slower than if we were at some 1.5 miles where passing can be a little easier. I I thought Phillip Scott was making a move out of that corner. I think he was just going lows. You see him really dive it in there. Phillip Scott, I thought he was trying to get under the 11 of Chris Darling. Almost did on corner exit. Darling able to pull him as they get out of the corner, and I think that's where Darling's been able to defend this lead. You can see Phillip's getting into that corner really hard, and Chris is able to get the throttle down on exit maybe slightly better and just bring that gap out enough to hold Phillip Scott back. And Jason Grassi is falling off slightly from this battle for the lead, but I wouldn't again, keep your eyes on him, because I know from experience he can come from nowhere and he's right there to contend. Phillip didn't quite get the exit I think he was looking for there, but Peter, I'm just waiting, because eventually I think he's gonna get that run. I'm just, I'm eager to see what he's able to do with it when it finally comes to him.
Well, at least you can see that your top three have really stretched it out on the fourth place car of Ben Mashburn. There's Mashburn. But here come your leaders right there. Darling, Scott, Gracias. And then there's Mashburn, Doug Neal riding in fifth. Then you have Sobel right there, Nathan Maurer, Justin White. And then side by side between Randy Bledsoe and Justin White, as they work through the lap traffic. The number 69 machine right there of Johnny Williams staying high on the racetrack. 3 wide there briefly. And Williams going to stay well out of this battle for position right now. These two battling for that ninth spot out there on the racetrack. You give that spot to the number 81 machine for now. Let's go back up front. Only 0.2 of a second separate these top two, and it does look like maybe Darling and Scott pulling away just a little bit on Jason Gracias.
Yeah, Gracias is able to hold about within a second of Chris Darling, but still not quite as close as he has been. And then you mentioned Ben Mashburn, 4th and 5th, kind of fell off a little bit. So we say that, and Gracias really got into that corner hard, but I don't think he's able to keep that off the corner. But this is what we've really seen the entire race here, is Phillip Scott within about 2 or 3 tenths of Chris Darling, and there he almost made a move. He couldn't quite get under him, maybe trying to stay close on exit, not quite. Peter, I'm excited by this battle for the race lead. I'm just waiting for Phillip Scott. He's so close. And you can see it. He really gets into the corner hard. You can see from his in-car how much he closes in on Chris Darling, but then they get to that second half of the corner. That was turn 4, and then Phillip, he just can't quite get the gas down on corner exit. This time though, he actually did get a pretty good run out of the corner, able to get under the 11, headed into turn 1. Definitely the biggest chance we've seen by Phillip Scott so far. Chris Darling good on the high line though through that turn, gonna have to give up the chance to get the pass done and just go right back to what he was doing, trying to find another opportunity for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Meanwhile, we got a battle back behind them. This is Doug Neal and number 4, Ben Mashburn. Looks like Doug Neal has taken away the 4th position from Ben. So the number 77 will try and track down your top 3, although there was about 4 seconds between them as they run right now. Just looking a little bit further back, this is this group of trucks. So we were highlighting them just a little while ago as Randy Bledsoe, the other Randy. I get my row 4 Randys mixed up, but Matt Cherry there now in front of Stan Hausman. The 33, Jeffrey Johnson Jr. is in the mix, as is Travis White. This is 9th position on through 13th. Then you go a ways back to TJ Buck, who's picked up 5 spots from the drop of the green flag. Brandon White back behind him. Nick Kessler in the Taz Racing Customs number 88 is still your biggest mover of the race. He's picked up 7 spots since the drop of the green. And then Doug Milner's behind Vincent Valvano, but Doug Milner, who wanted to sponsor the race with the Doug Milner Underwear Emporium, he has picked up 6 spots, kind of calling his own number there on the side of the Louisville number 6. Well, let's check out, see if anything's happened up at the front. Doesn't look like it. Still right where we left him, Mitchell, as we are now completing lap number 35, closing in on the quarter race distance, and now Phillip Scott looking underneath him again, can't do anything. Drops back in behind that Taz Racing Customs F-150. And
we're starting to get to the point in this run where we're going to start to see who saved tires better, Phillip Scott or Chris Darling, as Phillip Scott dove it in under Darling, and Darling up into the wall. No, he managed to keep it out of the wall, but the caution is out. Contact going down into turn 1 between Phillip Scott and Chris Darling. We're going to dial that one up again on the replay. Phillip Scott just, I think, maybe getting a little bit impatient behind Darling as they head down into turn 1. You're going to see it here. He kind of makes a late dive as they go down into the corner, tries to get under Darling, just a little bit squirrely on the brakes. Darling doesn't know he's down there because didn't quite have time to react, and there went Chris Darling. Impressive job, though, by Chris, keeping it out of the wall. You can see he's headed straight for it. Manages to keep that truck from getting any damage to the right side. Really no significant damage from what I'm seeing, Peter, but definitely an exciting moment there. Not quite how I expected that to go down, as we're going to ride on board now with the 11.
Yeah, on board there's the contact, and he just kind of kept that wheel fairly straight, and it just started to point itself in the right direction again. And you see William Kerwin there in the 07. I think he had just fallen one lap down, so I think he's going to be our Lucky Dog award recipient here. But looks like Darling is only going to lose 2 spots here. He's going to come down onto pit road. Meanwhile, watch the 07 of William Kerwin. And Kerwin, he should be getting that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. There he goes. So the first one handed out here tonight. If you are in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, make sure you check out our friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital for all your pet hospital needs. Big supporter of the National Sim Racing Association, but we do have leaders on pit road, so we do want to figure out here who's going to win that race off pit road. And looks like Phillip Scott's going to win over Chris Darling. Third off pit road was Jason Gracias and Doug Neal and Ben Mashburn. So a few small changes up there towards the front of the field. We'll see the rest of the field trickle off of pit road back onto the racing surface. We did get a quick alert on our end that maybe something had happened on entrance to pit road. We'll see whether or not there was anything to that or not. Hearing that it might have been Nick Kessler here. Let's go on board with driver of the number 88 machine. Said that he was not maintaining through race speed. Oh, that was it. Just had to almost come to a complete halt there behind Brandon White, but don't think they made any contact. But that was mighty close between those cars there on the racetrack. But it does look like Phillip Scott in the number 99 will potentially be leading us back to green. Looks like Johnny Williams will be taking the wave around, as he has not elected to pit here on lap number 37 when your leader's elected to come down pit road here. So we should be going green here momentarily at the Milwaukee Mile, but a good opening stint to the race. Let's see if we can bring up those standings. We alluded to them earlier in the night. 3 drivers have already locked their way into the chase for the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. We're using a chase system this year, Mitchell, but Schepler, Gracias, and Price have locked themselves in with race wins. And then you have the drivers there kind of in the point standings trying to race their way in. Of course, a long way until we get to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series chase. But Travis White, Nathan Maurer, Matt Cherry, TJ Buck, Phillip Scott, Nick Kessler, Randy Perdue, those drivers are currently in the chase based off of points. Stan Hausman, who was in the playoffs format last year, in the 11th position. Justin White, John Canizaro, and Josh Sobel on the outside looking in. But Canizaro is very quick. Josh Sobel, we know he's very quick. Canizaro not in the field here tonight, but we know Sobel's very capable. I mean, it's a lot of really capable drivers there just outside the chase with Hausman, White, and Sobel all into tonight's field here, Mitchell.
And I look at your top 2 in the race right now. Phillip Scott only 7 points above that cut line. Chris Darling's down in 15th, not even on that graphic. Those are your top 2 right now. So those are 2 drivers who aren't quite up toward the top of those point standings, really looking to punch a win in here tonight as the iRacing pace car has gone down pit road. Phillip Scott hits the gas pedal again to get this race going. Another good start for Chris Darling on the outside. Not as good as his start at the beginning of the race. Is Scott going to be able to take the lead back? But I'd watch how hard Chris races Phillip now after that. Might not see quite the patience from Chris Darling you might have expected to before that contact.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, we will wait and see just how long Chris Darling will wait. All the field working their way around the racetrack. I will say the racing here tonight has been rather clean, except for that one little moment between the 99 and the number 11, but they sorted themselves out with minimal contact, and it is the 99 leading the 11 for right now. The one Gracias slots into third, then Ben Mashburn's back up to fourth. Remember, he had fallen back to fifth momentarily before that yellow flag fell. And then Doug Neal and the 971 Nathan Maurer back there. One driver who's not been having a good time of things under this restart is the driver of the purple and pink 57, Josh Sobel, has fallen back to the 9th position. We typically have Rich Sobel in the chat. Let's see how the chat is doing. Brantley Roden saying Dave & Buster's went out of business during COVID where they are. That is not fun. Fat Dog Racing IR, who was mentioning a little while ago that he prefers to race the Indy cars. I love the Indy cars in iRacing, by the way, and it's so cool now that they have the different tire compounds. I have to say that I really wish the Indy cars were what the iRacing pros use, because I think the Indy cars are very much underutilized here on the service. Ben Adams saying camping and got the race going on the TV. How about that? We are probably in some forest somewhere amongst the trees or amongst the grass here on 3YTV. How cool is that? As well as all of you folks in the chat. And how about Stay Tuned Sports saying just got home from Dave & Buster's. I miss anything? Well, you didn't miss anything until that contact. I believe you were here for that contact, though, between Chris Darling and Phillip Scott up at the front of the field. So it has been a relatively clean start to the race. Meanwhile, last time by, Christopher Darling, Mitchell, ran the fastest lap of the race so far at 30.26 in that number 11. Just a couple hundredths of a second faster than your race leader, the 99 of Scott.
Yeah, it looked like he got a little tight on exit there, right as you said that, but he's kind of hanging in right about where Phillip Scott was on him, about 3/10 back, no less than that. So just continue to watch that battle up front. Meanwhile, looking a bit farther back in the pack, that I do believe is the 88 of Nick Kessler. I struggle to see numbers on this screen. Yes, it is. And he's fighting with the 24 of Brandon White. I think I got him right this time. There's Stan Houseman in that number 39 right in front of them, Brookstone Animal Hospital. And the Beer Street Journal on that truck. Looking at as I'm mixing up my names, that's TJ Buck, as we're dialing up something on the replay here. Peter, what are we going to look at?
Well, we're just going to check and see whether or not that Bucky's number 84 is going to have to go get some beaver nuggets because, oh man, that is close with the wall. I don't think TJ kissed it, but it was about as close as you can get. So TJ currently running down outside the top 10. As we run, closing in on the 1/3 race distance here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile in the Milwaukee Mile 150. Here we got a side-by-side battle between Nathan Maurer and Randy Bledsoe. This is for the 6th position out there on the racetrack. Give that to the number 81. So Randy picks up a spot. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. also just got around Vincent Valvano towards the back of the pack for 18th. And now Matt Cherry, we just saw right there, make that pass on Nathan Maurer as well. And Maurer sliding back here, got stuck on that high line. He's going to lose another spot to Josh Sobel in the number 57 as, connection issues there with Randy Bledsoe blinking out for a brief moment. So Matt Cherry gets around the number 81. He's going to move the 54 up into 6th now.
A little 2-for-1 pass there by Matt Cherry. Got around 2 trucks, got under Nate Maurer, and managed to get under that 81 and make both those passes stick. So impressive driving from Matt Cherry in that Stay Tuned Sports podcast paint scheme. Look, I love these cameras, Peter, we do, where you can see the field go by. You can see how really grouped up a lot of these cars are. You can see them, they're nose to tail quite a bit here. A lot spread out toward the front, then middle of the pack, they're kind of all together, and then a little more spread out back. And in the back of the field, but really good battles as we see Stan Hausman looking toward that higher lane, maybe trying to find a little speed somewhere else. As that opened the door maybe a little bit for Brandon White to get to his bumper. I don't think White's going to have much to do with it. Nate Maurer maybe either looking to the outside of that 57 that is Joshua Sobel, or maybe Sobel got to the inside, or maybe they were just running different lines, not quite sure, but riding on board with Sobel now. You can see him right on the back of the 81 of Randy Bledsoe there. Sobel trying to get off the corner. We saw with TJ Buck that deceptive exit I think I was talking about earlier, where it looks like you have so much room, but sometimes you just get tight. Joshua Sobel kind of came close to doing it, where you get a little closer to the wall than you are comfortable with riding on board with Nate Maurer, though. You can see how close these trucks are as Sobel takes a higher entrance into that corner there. But we're seeing, I think, drivers. I saw Stan Hausman, Josh Sobel. There are some drivers starting to venture a little higher on corner entry, trying to find that straightaway speed.
Yeah, they're definitely looking for something that the car in front of them doesn't have. I mean, I know that sounds kind of silly, right? That's what you're always trying to do on a race track, but in order to get around the car in front, you have to do something different. You cannot just drive through their rear bumper. I mean, I guess you could, and usually that ends up in somebody ending up in the wall. But to get around them cleanly, let's say, you either have to go a little bit higher on entry, cut the car down to the bottom side of the racetrack. That's one car going around in the backstretch. Is that the number 6 of Doug Milliner? It sure did look like Milliner had a moment. Let's see what happened here to the number 6 of Doug Milliner coming out of the corner, and just kind of gets up into the wall, and I think he's going to need to go to the Doug Milliner Underwear Emporium and go pick up a new pair of underwear, because he might have a racing stripe by the sounds of it. But that number 6 has got some racing stripes on the right-hand side, as he's definitely lost some paint now in the Louisville Cardinal number 6 Mobile. He's still racing as we're back live, racing with the 25 of Randy Perdue back there for the 16th position. Meanwhile, a little bit further ahead, side-by-side between Nick Kessler here and Stan Hausman in the 39, Mitchell.
Yeah, Hausman trying to make the pass on Nick Kessler. Kessler trying to keep the high line rolling. We'll see who gets the better exit here out of turn 4. About even down the front straightaway. Kessler with a little more momentum maybe on the high line. Good corner entry for that 88. Looks like he'll hold that position as somebody up toward the top of the track. Not quite sure who that is, but Kessler able to hold off that 39 of Stan Hausman there, as Hausman's got that 24 of Brandon White, I believe, on his back bumper. Thought maybe the 24 would be able to make a move. Travis White right there, TJ Buck, a lot of cars. Notice his tail is Travis White, a little wiggle out of turn 4, trying to get a little more maybe than the truck had in it. But all in all, I think great racing here in this part of the pack, about the 7th to 15th range, I think, all kind of bumper to bumper. Just is where we see Travis White and the 23 go under the 24, not quite able to make it stick. As I say that, Brandon White went up the track a little more. Travis White able to maybe take that position, is looking up back at a replay of the battle for the lead here, Peter.
Yeah, Christopher Darling in the number 11. We looked away for just a brief moment, and Darling in the 11, who has led the most laps here tonight, was able to get on by the number 99, and the number 1 of Jason Gracias also able to follow on through past the number 99 of Ninja Phil. Though Ninja Phil slides back to 3rd here, and if you're wondering what the battle for the race lead looks like right now, well, Chris Darling has checked out, so he's turned on the afterburners. He's gotten about 9/10 of a second on the number 1 of Gracias there, who's about a half second up the road from Phillip Scott. But the first big battle for position is for 4th, as Doug Neal has also just put a pass on Ben Mashburn. So positions changing hands up towards the front half of the field, and this is about the same stage of the last run, Mitchell, where we started to see these drivers get racy with one another.
Yeah, I think we're seeing them get a little more spread out, though, in this run, Peter. Chris Darling definitely 0.8 of a second now over Jason Gracias. Gracias has about a 0.6 of a second lead over Phillip Scott, who's about a 1.5 seconds in front of Doug Neal, who's a few tenths in front of Ben Mashburn, and then you've got to look way 3 seconds back to find Matt Cherry in 6th, and then the field starts to get a little bit closer together, as you can see there. But this run, I feel like the front of the pack spread out a little bit more, as maybe Chris Darling learned a little bit from that first run. Jason Gracias maybe learned a little bit. Phillip Scott might have burned his stuff up a little bit more than he did, being out in the race lead and trying to pull it away. That can happen sometimes. I don't know if that's the case here, or he's just not liking the way the truck's handling this run. But we're looking back in the pack once again at Justin White in the number 2 truck. Justin's sitting in the 11th position right now, right in front of Stan Hausman and behind Nick Kessler. And it's kind of where we've seen the battles has been from this little group here in the back half of the top 10, currently being led by Joshua Sobel, I believe, in the 57. Then you have to look a little ways up to find Randy Bledsoe. But behind there, as we see maybe Stan Hausman trying to get under Justin White. Yes, Justin White trying to roll that kind of third groove up high. Not really great corner exit. Got a little squirrely in the rear end, and that's going to give the 11th position up to Stan Hausman. Travis White looking to maybe take advantage of that. I don't think the 23 is going to be able to make that work. On the inside, Justin White looks to have momentum on corner exit, and Justin will hold the 12th position, but another little swap for positions. That's kind of what we're seeing here, is just one position swap here, one position swap there, and drivers not fading too much. As we look a little farther up in the pack, that's the 81 of Randy Bledsoe looking for a pass for the 6th position over Matt Cherry. Give it to the 81 headed into turn 1. See if Cherry looks to be trying to cross him over on corner exit, but couldn't quite get that truck to stick, and that'll give that 6th position up to Randy Bledsoe. But great battles here mid-race, Peter.
Yeah, kind of these individual duels happening out there on the racetrack amongst a lot of these drivers. Now, Josh Sobel, Nathan Maurer in a battle with Nick Kessler now on the scene. Kessler, who has picked up 13 spots since the drop of the green flag, sends it off into turn number 1. Sobel gives him plenty of room, so Kessler moves now up into the 9th position, plus 14 spots. How about that for the number 88? How impressive is that here tonight? That is definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on. That is for sure. Meanwhile, back behind him, what's happened to Josh Sobel? Sobel must have just had a moment here. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to the number 57 machine. We'll put it on the 3-wide TV replay, roll back the tape just a little bit, and it seemed like Sobel might have been starting to struggle here. Mitchell coming out of turn number 4 just gets loose, and all of a sudden was turning towards the inside wall. Great save for the 57.
Yeah, just lost the rear end. That's something we've seen a little bit of drivers struggling with out of turn 4, I think, especially, is those rear ends kind of want to slide a little bit. You're going to be able to see him work that wheel from onboard. You see it turn almost 180 degrees down to try and catch that car, and got close to that inside wall, managed to keep out of it. Great driving by Josh Sobel, but I think that's how some of these drivers are trying to drive these cars, and that's something you can do. This isn't necessarily a short track. It kind of is. It's 1 mile long, but it's a longer track that drives like a short track in these corners. But that's one way to get around this place, is to really just take it a little bit easier through the corners and then hit that gas and kind of smoke those rear tires and slide the rear end around going on exit. I know that worked when we were on the short track last night. You talked about it in the Beer Street Journal series, Peter. That was one way I noticed myself and a lot of other drivers. That was really the way to get around that track, and I think we're seeing some of that translate here to a different shorter track here in Milwaukee, where drivers really trying to get those rear ends to maybe slide out just enough to get the cars out with a lot of speed. But you just saw Josh Sobel maybe cross that fine line that exists there, and if you try to hang the rear end out a little too much, you can lose control of it slightly. But looking back at the racetrack now, Jason Gracias, well, he's not run Chris Darling down in the last 2 laps, just lost a little bit of time, but look, like 3, 4, 5 laps ago, those are significant chunks taken out of Darling's lead. That lead down to 0.6 of a second. It was up over a second, so Gracias on the longer run starting to get a little speed back in that number 1 car. Phillip Scott still hanging about 1.5 seconds behind in the 3rd position, but he's not fading quite away from the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. So things might be closing in up towards the front of the field, that's for sure. Ben Adams in the chat saying, yeah, we are surrounded by woods right now. So somewhere there's the voice of 3Y TV in the woods. Could be a little bit ominous, as we are hearing that one driver is having some problems out there on the racetrack. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to driver of the number 69 machine, Johnny Williams, before we jump back towards the chat. And Johnny right behind the number 10, Monty Glover, and just gets loose, gets away from him, and the suicide prevention lifeline number 69 hard into the inside wall. And Johnny able to keep that number 69 machine rolling, but he has now jumped to the pit road as we see this battle for the race lead start to close up ever so little. Nick Monticelli in the chat saying he loves this track. I love this racetrack, and it's putting on a good show here tonight. Some good green flag racing, as we've only had one caution here in the first half of the race, because we are very quickly closing in on the halfway mark here tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Big shout out to Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. Their link to their Podbean is in the description. Stay Tuned Sports also in the chat saying Lionheart doesn't underutilize the IndyCar. That is for sure. I absolutely love Lionheart Racing, and a great league. Absolutely so cool. I have to say that, oh my goodness, I just had to jinx it. We'll come back to that thought. I said there was only one caution in the first half of the race, so what does that mean, Mitchell? Caution flag, the second caution flag in the first half of the race just has to fly. Let's see what happened here on the 3Y TV replay.
Yeah, Matt Cherry headed in through turns 3 and 4. I believe he just kind of got loose on exit. That's another example of trying to work that rear end out on corner exit. Just gave it a little too much and couldn't quite correct it back around. Did a good job locking it down, though, not getting into that infield wall and keeping it out of the other trucks. That's about, when you get in that position, about the best thing you can hope for if you're Matt Cherry, because odds are if you try to correct it too much, you're going to spin it right back up in an 8-mile, and it ends up way worse than it could have been. So I think good job by Matt Cherry getting that locked down. Maybe, I don't think he got that wall, Peter. He came awfully close to it, but I think he managed to save that truck and keep it out of it. The tires, not so much, but I think the chassis there's in one piece.
Yeah, so another caution flag waves here tonight. In fact, I'm trying to think. That might be the third caution flag, but whatever the case, we have a bunch of drivers coming down pit road, led by the number 11 Taz Racing Customs Ford F-150 of Chris Darling. Phillip Scott going to be in his pit box. Look at every driver diving towards their pit crew. I wouldn't exactly want to be one of these drivers. As the 57, no, the 57 did not miss his pit stall. They're just absolutely crammed nose to tail on the pit box here, and Darling's going to win that race off a pit road right there, and everyone following him on back. Man, this is a much tighter pit road than I expected, as Sobel, he's going to lose quite a bit of positions, because you could tell there was definitely some hesitancy finding his pit stall.
Yeah, I wonder how long these pit boxes are compared to other tracks we go to, because I do agree that those trucks look really nose to tail. You'd hate to be one of the pit crew members that unfortunately we can't see here on iRacing, but I think that'd be fun to see a bunch of pit crews run and have to work really side by side with each other. As gone back on the replay, are we looking back at pit road?
Yeah, I was just going to see if we can get a feel for how this pit lane is. I think it's going to be interesting to exactly see, maybe from the 3Y TV blimp cam. Oh, Mr. Blimp, dude, just be a little bit closer. Let's see what the chopper does. Ah, there we go. The chopper was on it. Let's roll back the tape just a little bit. In fact, let's see if we can get some of the leaders coming down pit road. How about that? That might even be a little bit better, and we can follow the leaders down pit road. Here we go with the chopper, following very closely on the number 11 here of Christopher Darling. And gonna see him dive onto pit road. There we go on this 3-wide TV replay. And let's go back. Let's see if we can watch Josh Sobel. There we go. There's Sobel, because we know he had problems finding his pit box. Let's jump on board with him. How about that? We'll jump on board with him, see how difficult it is for him to see his pit stop. Even though we're on the roof here, looking over, trying to see where that pit stall is. Nope, that's not it. There we go. That's the pit stall. And yeah, you can tell right there, they are absolutely jam-packed on pit road. I mean, I don't even think there's an inch between the 971 and the number 57 there of Nate Maurer and the 57 of Josh Sobel. So it's pretty difficult getting into your pit stall here.
I can tell you one thing that would throw me off if I was a driver in this race is it didn't look like those pit stalls were quite lined up with the yellow lines, and Sobel pitted about the truck right on the middle of one of those yellow lines. That has to be difficult for these drivers here tonight. Not envious of the task they have in their hands on pit road. Meanwhile, the iRacing pace truck about to go back down that pit road and give the field back over to Chris Darling, your race leader. Jason Gracias, not Justin Gracias, in second place on the outside lane, is looking at the flag man, getting ready to wave the green flag as the pace truck is down pit road. The field in the hands of Chris Darling, back under green here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Yeah, good start by that number 11 as they race towards turn number 1 and 2. Darling is going to clear Gracias. Gracias going to be up in second, then Phillip Scott in third, but the race is really on right back behind him. Doug Neal trying to get to the outside of Ninjaville, but as I say that, here comes the 4 of Ben Mashburn trying to look to the inside of Doug Neal. So a lot to play for here on these restarts. We have seen that the field kind of spreads out. A big wiggle out of the 81 of Randy Bledsoe. That huge wiggle saved it, but I think Nick Kessler in the 88 had to check up. That was some great heads-up driving by, Ninja Phil's gone around in the number 99 machine. He gets clobbered going back up the racetrack, and the 2 of Justin White in the wall. The 2's night is done.
And in all that chaos, Jason Gracias got up to the race lead on that restart. So there was definitely a lot to digest as we're going to take a look back at this one. Phillip Scott already pulled that truck to the garage and retired it for the night. Not surprising. He got absolutely killed by, I think it was the 81 of Randy Bledsoe. Taking a look from the 3Y TV blimp cam, headed down into turn 1. Believe a little bump from behind by Ben Mashburn, compounded by another one. At that point, Phillip Scott's around. And look at the 77 of Doug Neal. Where is he going to go? He's looking straight at it. Nate Maurer, I believe, right above it. Randy Bledsoe in that 81 went the other way. Didn't work out for him. And here you go. Phillip Scott right up into those guys. I don't think he actually made contact with the 2. I think the 2 got hooked by the 84 because they were both trying to avoid it and just to come in together. Meanwhile, there was another wreck back behind it. I think you showed briefly, Peter, but man, there was a lot going on here.
Yeah, let's see this one full speed and see the little bit of contact right there. Puts the number 99 looking like he's going to go around, and then these cars just kind of nowhere for them to go. Looks like Doug Milliner had a little bit of a slide in the number 6 machine. Monty Glover in the 10 down there at the bottom of your screen coming to a complete halt. But let's see if we can see what happened here on board with the number 2. We know that Justin White, his night appears to be done. A blown motor on this truck that we ride on board with right here. This will bring out the 3rd caution flag of the night. The 99 goes around. You can see the 99 coming up the racetrack, and Justin White, man, oh man, nowhere for him to go. And he hit that outside wall at a really bad angle, and you could tell just how big of a hit that was for Justin White.
Yeah, big, almost head-on impact with that outside wall. Tried to turn up to get around Phillip Scott. Unfortunately, there was the 84 of TJ Buck. Nowhere really for Justin White to go. But a lot of trucks taken out now, and that's the first major wreck I think we've seen. Our first caution was there wasn't really even a car taken out. Chris Darling just got a little close to the wall after some contact. The second wreck was, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a 1 or 2 truck wreck. This one definitely going to have more of an impact as we ride on board with Josh Sobel going through turns 1 and 2. Goes up high. You see the 84 Sobel barely squeaking through that wreck. He might, what is it? He might have to visit Doug Neal's Underwear Emporium. Did I get it right there, Peter?
Something like that. I'll tell you what, they're earning their racing stripes here tonight, and as you said, in that mess, we did get a new race leader. So let's see how Jason Gracias was able to get around Chris Darling before all the chaos went down. Gracias just got a great run coming out of turn number 2. Back to the inside of the Taz Racing Customs number 11. Used that low line to its fullest and cleared the number 11. And then if you look out back, this is, see if we can look out back from Chris Darling right here and see what that tailgate saw. There's the number 99, Phillip Scott. What a great race it has been for Phillip Scott until that moment right there. And then all of a sudden, there's the log jam back there. And I'm sure Chris Darling will be glad he was in front of that scuffle to put us under the caution flag. But we are now back live with the shots, and the iRacing pace truck lights have turned off here. Some extended stays on pit road. Justin White, we know he's got a blown motor. He's on pit road. Phillip Scott, the number 99, has, I believe, called it a night. He's not even on pit road anymore. Randy Bledsoe in the number 81 as well. TJ Buck in the number 84. He had lengthy stops. Looks like Doug Milliner, lengthy stops. A lot of drivers here coming down, getting a lot of damage repaired. But the pace truck has headed down pit road. The one of Gracias gets us back underway. Green flag waves, and a huge jump for the MaxGrafix number 1 machine.
Yeah, no, I was really interested to see what Jason Gracias could do. He took the high line on that restart. I believe the first time we've seen that, we saw Chris Darling get a great jump from that outside lane on the initial start to take the lead. So I think a smart move by Gracias, only halfway through this race, trying something else out. Obviously worked out pretty well for him. He's already about a 3 to 4/10 of a second lead over Chris Darling, who's your second place truck, as we're watching the field fly on by. The front of the 4 or 5 trucks already single file, looking at there is a battle between Nate Maurer and Nick Kessler. We're looking at it now here for the 5th position. That is the battle for the top 5. Looking at the 3 wide TV replays, what are we looking at now?
I'm just curious to know if there might have been a little bit of contact between these drivers going off towards turn number 1, and there's your answer. Yeah, a little bit of a hip check right there between those two, but they kept things going. 971 and Nate Maurer underneath Nick Kessler was able to clear him and I believe complete that pass. We are now back live as Nick Kessler now under fire from the number 23 of Travis White. So Travis trying to get himself up into the top 6, I think, for the first time here tonight. And here comes the 54 of Matt Cherry as Kessler is just being freight trained on that high line right now.
Yeah, Kessler went from being in the battle for the 5th position down back to the 8th position now as they cross the start-finish line, and under fire from Stan Hausman. Trying to put Kessler back into the 9th position. We'll see if that outside lane, yes, able to prevail with the momentum. That seems to be a good defense. Usually, it seems this race is the outside lane can keep up some momentum. Meanwhile, Jason Gracias checked out over Chris Darling. That gap, we'll see what it was at the line here, 9/10 of a second. Setting the fastest lap of the race, you see it there, a 30:25. Pretty fast. That's about where I think the average of the faster times in practice was at. So Gracias keeping up a decent pace now. We'll see if he can maintain it over the run. That's usually the key, especially when we come to a flatter track like this. They tend to burn up some tires. So we'll see if Gracias can keep that pace. But right now, no contest up at the front of the pack. Meanwhile, looking a little further back here, that is the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. you're focusing on in the 11th position. He's got marked in white in that 24 in front of him. Vincent Valvano in the 64. All these trucks bumper to bumper. It just takes one truck to get a run, and all of a sudden we have a little battle for position. That's been, I think, the interesting thing to watch throughout this race, and I know we've mentioned it several times, is usually it's just little battles between one or two trucks. As we see Jeffrey Johnson there, the 24 turned down. I thought he was going to turn down into him. I think the 33 may have checked up out of that one, realizing the 33 wasn't under him. I don't think I said that right, but that's all right. Jeffrey Johnson looking underneath him again. I think the 24 maybe headed up the racetrack, maybe realized he cut him off a little bit. Give that position to Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Now up into the 10th position. That'll thought maybe set Vincent Valvano up for a chance to pass, but it looks like they're all gonna settle in as a little higher approach for Jeffrey Johnson. I thought maybe he was gonna cross down into the 24 again, Peter. A lot of different things going on back here.
Yeah, definitely some good racing far back in the pack. This is right now just around the 10th position or so, as Nick Kessler has, I think, gotten back by Matt Cherry, so moves the number 88 back up to 7th. He is currently plus 16 spots from where he started here tonight, so that would be the Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race if the checkered flag was to fall right now, but it's still got about 57 laps to go this time by for your race leader, Jason Gracias. There he is with that gap over Christopher Darling. But looking just a little bit further back, remember I just mentioned Matt Cherry. Well, something must have happened to the number 54. We saw him get loose out of turn number 4 to bring out the second caution flag here tonight, but something must have happened again, because remember he was racing up there around Nick Kessler. What happened here to the number 88 machine?
We'll see. I think maybe just a bad turns 3 and 4 for Matt Cherry. We'll take a look here on the 3YTV replay. Got in a little bit deep. Doesn't look too bad. Stan Houseman gets under him. Cherry just, you see the rear end step out a little bit. Might have gotten a little loose. It didn't look too abrupt. Just maybe not the greatest run through turns 3 and 4, but able to gather it back up again, sitting in the 12th position now behind the Vincent Valvano. So lost about 3 or 4 positions in that little exchange, and that's just all it takes sometimes. You saw it wasn't a very violent shake from the rear end of that truck, but just enough to upset that 54 and cost him about 4 spots on track, I think. So it's just little things like that. As you can see, he's right back running in the field again, but some drivers took it a little lower, a little up forward. I saw, I don't think much going on, but a little bit more spread out now after that little exchange. Matt Cherry settled back in, as well as everyone else up front. Who was that? Jeffrey Johnson Jr. working under lap car, who I cannot see the number of, unfortunately. That's been my curse tonight, I know, Peter, but they're a little more packed up here, but so 3 wide. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's the number 25 machine there of Randy Perdue getting underneath Matt Cherry. So Cherry's issues continue to compound here at the Milwaukee Mile, coming to just 50 laps to go here very soon, and Cherry has now fallen outside of the top 12. So move Perdue up into 12th, Cherry back to 13th. There's Josh Sobel in the 57. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Sobel might have gotten more damage than we expected in that last big accident. He definitely doesn't seem to have the pace, unfortunately, in the number 57 machine that we saw out of him earlier in the night. And speaking of drivers who we saw a lot of pace of earlier in the night, unfortunately, Phillip Scott has joined us in the chat saying every week it's something that takes him out, and it's so frustrating. But Phillip, I will say, buddy, you have a lot of pace. You will see checkered flag here sometime this season. Andrew Himmelman, the reigning series champion here of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, joining us in the chat as well. Andrew, you out there in and amongst the woods as we see Josh Sobel looking to the inside here of Randy Perdue, and looks like Sobel will make that pass. Now Vincent Valvano in the 00, just a couple of trucks in front. He's looking to the inside of Brandon White, and I've been so impressed with the 00 machine of Vincent Valvano over the first couple of races this season, Mitchell. Vincent's one of those drivers who just kind of creeps under the radar. We don't often talk about the Cars for Cause 00, probably not as much as we should, but here he is creeping his way back up into the top 10. He's currently running in 10th behind Jeffrey Johnson Jr. And again, just a solid night for the 00. Not a scratch on that car here so far. But Vincent goes by Vinny, solidly working his way forward. Started in 17th, now running up in 10th. So a solid night so far for him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the nights you hope to have here on tracks like this, where this is kind of a wild card race for some drivers. Don't really know what to expect, but just kind of those quiet nights. Sitting in the top 10 right now, started 17th, so it has been a really good progression for that 00, continuing to work his way up, trying to run down the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson. So just, yeah, impressive run, and we're still have another third of this race to go, so watch that 00 to continue moving up through the field. But unfortunately for him and some of those cars back there, the field's a little more spread out, so not as easy to find that next truck to pass. Looking at a good battle for fourth, though. Ben Mashburn under attack from Nate Maurer as they head down into turn one. Maurer right on the bumper of Mashburn. I think Mashburn was going high maybe to give the position to Maurer, saying, all right, I know you're faster than me, go ahead and take it. And I think Maurer was maybe going up to that higher lane to try and cross him over on exit. So luckily worked out well for both drivers. There wasn't any contact, but yeah, just a little quick change of positions. They're running up on TJ Buck, who we had also seen a lot of pace from. Unfortunately, big damage from that last caution. You can see put TJ a lap down. Back behind them, also a good position, or a good battle for position, excuse me, we're looking at now between Travis White and Nick Kessler. That one's for the 6th position. Nick Kessler wants it. Travis White has it. Headed down into turn 3, there is the lap car of TJ Buck to contend with. See if Travis White's going to catch TJ on exit. That's going to give good speed to Nick Kessler. Maybe Travis White actually got an impressive corner exit. Very well driven as they're going to continue to battle for that position. Also looking up now at the battle for the lead. Battles for position everywhere up toward in the top 5. Jason Gracias, you're riding on board with him, looking out back to Chris Darling. That gap has come down about 0.2 of a second over the last 5 or so laps. So slowly but surely, Chris Darling starting to run in your race leader with about 44 laps to go. There's plenty of time for Chris Darling to make that happen. Also looking at the battle for 9th, keeping me busy here, Peter. Jeffrey Johnson has it. Vincent Valvano and Brandon White looking to take it. Vincent Valvano, we talked about him just now, able to run down that 33. There goes Vincent Valvano in the 00. Maybe I might have spoke too soon. Jeffrey Johnson trying to put up the fight on the outside lane, but looks like Vincent Valvano's got the speed. And there goes that 24, Brandon White looking to take the position. Now keeping me busy once again, Peter, moving to Travis White and Nick Kessler. That battle for position still staying hot. Nick Kessler right on the bumper of the 23, but yeah, there's a lot to look at all over the track, but this battle for the lead still about 0.5 of a second.
Oh man, I was hoping to keep that going, just let you commentate the rest of the race, but here we go, back for 6th. Nick Kessler getting around Travis White to move him up into that spot. Kessler has a little bit to go to catch up to the number 4 of Ben Mashburn, just on the left side of the screen. Now at the bottom of your screen, right there in the Chester's Chicken number 4 machine. If Ben Mashburn ever gets to get in victory lane, he can say, winner, winner, Chester's Chicken Dinner. We'll see whether or not that happens this season. Of course, Ben has been able to get to victory lane before here on 3 Wide TV. He's running right now inside the top 5 in 5th. But up at the front of the field, we highlighted this while you were rambling on about everything happening on the racetrack. You kind of look every corner, and there's some duel forming up. That's kind of what we saw earlier as well under the longish green flag runs that we have had. But Darling kind of just staying right there. They're really pretty close with one another. Let's see if we can bring up the histogram again, and you can see it's gone from about 1.1 seconds now, just below a half second between the 1 and the 11. So we will see whether the MaxGrafix.co Chevrolet can hold on for the win here tonight, or Chris Darling, can he get on by? Will it be someone else? We have 40 more miles here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, the Truck Series with Jimbo in the chat here tonight. And there is, of course, a link to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast in the description here as well as the other series sponsors here in the National Sim Racing Association. If you haven't checked out some of the other sponsors, such as Beer Street Journal, Sim Shots, among others, there's a link in the description to each and every one of them, so make sure you check that out here on 3 Wide TV. Justin White, same man I was taken out in that same caution a little while ago. It is what it is, says Phillip Scott. They will be back next week for another race here in the National Sim Racing Association. And in fact, next week is going to be Texas Motor Speedway, 200 miles at Texas Motor Speedway. Should be a fun one, that mile-and-a-half racetrack. Mitchell recently repaved, reconfigured. Some people really like it, some people really dislike it. Either way, it seems to always put on a good show here in the National Sim Racing Association.
Yet one of the more uniquely shaped mile-and-a-halves, I think, after they repaved it. I personally like it, not as much as the old version, but I do still like what they did to it. You like seeing more unique things done to mile-and-a-halves, which can sometimes be kind of cookie-cutter in their design. But yeah, definitely I like seeing interesting tracks and unique tracks, and that's, I think, another one we have here at Milwaukee. There's not too many like this, and that's what I like about the short tracks. And you can debate me on whether this is a short track or not, but it just creates some interesting racing that we don't see at the mile-and-a-halves, which also create interesting racing, but in different ways. It's just very interesting how that works. But we are looking at Travis White, and the 23 continues to fight with Nick Kessler. Kessler got that position from Travis White not too long ago, we saw, but Travis White wants it back. Don't look too far back. You find Stan Hausman, who's run these two down. Their battle maybe brings up that 39 in that Beer Street Journal truck, just kind of sitting and waiting as Kessler got a little bit close to that wall. As you can see out Stan Hausman's truck, just how close those two are, and it's what we've seen the entire race, is just a few trucks get close together and they put on great shows for us. And that's what these drivers in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series continue to do, as we kind of winding it down toward the closing stages of the race. But this run's been going on for a little while. I believe this may be the longest run we've had tonight. I don't want to give it the commentator's curse, knock on wood. But there we see Travis White get under once again that 88 of Nick Kessler. I think Kessler's been able to roll that high line out of this corner to keep the position. Will do so yet again. Maybe I spoke too soon once again. Travis White close, but not close enough to make the move back in turn 3. But Stan Hausman is now there. He is close to that bumper of Travis White, so watch out for the 39 to make a move. Meanwhile, Peter is doing it to me again as we look at Garrett Gleason in the 7. Doug Milliner in the 6, going for a ride, locking it down. Will that bring out a caution? Maybe gets it rolling. We are going to stay green. Great piece of driving from Doug Milliner there. You saw it just in the edge of your screen. We're going to look at it again. Milliner does what I think has brought out a few of the cautions tonight, just trying to get the rear end to turn out of the corner. Gave it a little too much. That thing went around, but great driving, keeping it out of the infield wall, out of the outside wall. You see how quickly he had to turn it there, Peter, but just great driving by Doug Milliner to once again not have that truck go into the wall. We've seen a lot of drivers really show some skill out of turn 4, is riding on board with someone, I don't know who, but you can see, can't even really see where that truck is.
Yeah, so that did not bring out the caution flag. Meanwhile, while we were reviewing that, Stan Hausman's gotten by Nick Kessler. Travis White has also gotten by Nick Kessler. So move Travis back to 6th, move Stan Hausman up to 7th, and the Beer Street Journal number 39 machine here having one heck of a run. That Ford F-150 here showing us that he's got some muscle. I know he's kind of a dark horse here, Mitchell. That number 39 all of a sudden starts to creep up through the field late in the race, time and time again, and this would be for the 6th position if he can clear this pass on the 23 of White. But we've seen that Travis isn't the easiest driver to pass in the past here on 3 Wide TV. So Hausman trying to stay glued to that white line. Travis White getting it gassed up, keeping that momentum up on that high line, but Hausman here going all the way down to the rumble strips down there. Sometimes those can help free up the truck on entry to the corner, and looks like Hausman rolls the center of turn number 3 and 4 very nicely. He is now your new 6th place truck here tonight, but he has a long gap up to Ben Mashburn, almost 4 seconds to the number 4 machine. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Jason Gracias expanded his lead up to about a second over Chris Darling. It's come down just a little bit, but you can see here, Mitchell, that the number 1 Gracias is dealing with some lap traffic. Just got past William Kerwin. Now here comes the number 10, Monty Glover, in front of him. Glover staying well out of the way, and that is Doug Milliner, who I think might need now 2 new pairs of underwear from his Underwear Emporium. Remember, if we can get 15 likes in the video here tonight, I will call the next unsponsored race the Monty Glover's Underwear Emporium 150, 200, whatever the case might be. So make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and I'll have to remember to check on that next week. And I'm sure I got a bunch of people in the Discord will probably let me know as well that that will happen, if it does indeed happen. And I'm just checking to see if we got any other battles. Of course, there's Nick Kessler. He's still sticking to Travis White. You can see Stan Hausman starting to pull away from this scrap now for 7th. And then a little bit further back, Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Behind Brandon White as they're losing time to the car in front, which is Vincent Valvano. Valvano, I think, is actually closing in on Nick Kessler. So there's Kessler. And we'll just bring up the lap time history over the last couple of laps to Vincent Valvano. And there you can see, Mitchell, Valvano almost a half second faster on lap 120. In fact, he was over a half second faster, although the last 2 laps, Valvano just losing a little bit of ground. And that, I think, just speaks to the way the 23 and the 88 have been racing one another.
Yeah, net gain so far for Vincent Valvano. As I will tell you, we do have 16 likes on the video right now. So
Oof.
I do believe, Peter, the chat has delivered on their duty, and we have those 15 likes. I thought I would just pass that along to you here.
Was that supposed to be a joke, a pun? I don't know. Well, Doug, you got your wish here on 3 Wide TV. The next unsponsored Truck Series race will be the Doug Milliner Underwear Emporium whatever. So that'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in for the Underwear Emporium event, because who knows what might happen. Let's hope and pray that the prize isn't a pair of underwear from his Underwear Emporium. But hey, whatever the case, maybe it will be. I don't know. Only time will tell. There's a lot to figure out between now and then, as well as tonight's race winner here at the Milwaukee Mile. Jason Gracias now up to about a 9/10 of a second lead up at the front. This is really the best battle in the field right now. Randy Perdue back here racing with Josh Sobel and Garrett Gleason. This is another battle for position, as looks like Sobel here did not get a strong run out of turn number 4. He's going to stay out of the way here. Mitchell, I can only imagine that damaged number 57 truck, just definitely not having the pace he had earlier in the show. I'm sure he will be again disappointed. It seems like Josh has zero luck right now. He really didn't have a whole lot of luck back when he was in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series a couple of seasons ago. I don't know. I don't know if he needs to make that car all pink or change the paint scheme or do something. find some good luck charm something. But Sobel again, disaster striking here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile. He's down there in 14th. I'm sure he will not be all too happy with that. Garrett Gleason in the number 7, tracking him down in the all-pink look. A couple of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month cars here. Great to have Garrett Gleason also participating in that. And not only is this pink car because of that, it's also a little bit of a Robbie Gordon throwback, because I think Robbie Gordon ran an all-pink car. Meanwhile, caution flag waves, I think for the 4th time here tonight, hearing that it might be the Bucky's number 84 of TJ Buck, who's had problems out there on the racetrack. Maybe, engine went pop and came to a stop here on the racetrack, and that was enough for iRacing to throw the yellow flag here, Mitchell.
Did about all I could. You can see in the replay to get that truck towed. Not much more the 84 could have done, but really unfortunate to see an engine go like that. You're going to see him just going through turns 3 and 4, and I believe it'll show those gauges. No, it doesn't, unfortunately, but that engine just expires there. Everything goes dead, and you can see him comes to a stop really quickly, gets it towed really quickly, but not quick enough for iRacing, unfortunately, and that puts us back under caution with about 20 laps to go. But the bright side of that for us in the booth and all the people in the chat is we're going to be seeing a pretty good race for the win here in these closing stages as the drivers down onto that really tight pit road. We see it again. I think everybody getting into their pit stalls all right here. I'm not seeing anybody have trouble yet, but definitely challenging. Someone was out of there really quickly.
Yeah, that was Adam Dama. I think he pitted when pit road was closed, but Gracias will win the race off pit road of your leaders. And look at some of these drivers a little bit further back fighting for position. Nathan Maurer in the 971 is going to be 3rd off pit road. There he is. Ben Mashburn 4th off pit road in his number 4 machine. Then Stan Hausman inside the top 5. How about that? Nick Kessler and then Doug Neal. So not a good pit stop on the number 77. In fact, he had the slowest pit stop of all of your leaders at 18.7 the second pit stop for him. We'll see if we can bring up the pit stop time so you can see them in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Jason Gracias with a 15-second stop. You compare that to the 14.5 from Chris Darling and his crew. Nathan Maurer 15 seconds. Ben Mashburn 14.9. Stan Hausman 14.8. Nick Kessler, the big winner on pit road with a 14.2 second stop. But then you had the big loser, Doug Neal, 18.4 seconds. Lost them some track position that might be hard to pick back up here in the late stages, Mitchell.
Yeah, really bad pit stop draw from iRacing there. Maybe you had a second or two of damage you wanted to get repaired, but it's kind of odd to see iRacing give that slow pit stop to someone. But definitely a good pit stop for Nate Maurer. We've seen him up around the top 5, but haven't really gotten to see him mix it up for the race lead, so I'm looking forward to that. There's his Simbox teammate Doug Neal, who's going to have a little bit of work to do here on this restart. I don't know if Doug Neal's been running that scheme this season, but that's a new one for me. I really like the look there, Doug. And there's Nate Maurer, who's going to find himself in a pretty good position here on this restart. I'm curious to see which lane Jason Gracias will take as the race leader. That outside lane worked really well for him last time, and we see him up there actually right now. So yes, Jason Gracias once again going to take the outside lane. It'll be Ben Mashburn lining up behind him as these trucks about ready to go back green. Don't forget the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. That honor goes to Doug Milliner. Picks up, I believe, the 3rd or 4th Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award we've given out tonight. Thank you to them for sponsoring that award. Meanwhile, iRacing Pace Truck headed through turns 3 and 4, bringing the field with it in the hands of Jason Gracias, getting ready to go green with about 18 or so laps left in this race.
iRacing Pace car will head down onto pit road, and the green flag will wave. There it is. And Jason Gracias with a jump on the field, clears the number 11 of Christopher Darling, and with the lap count winding down here, Mitchell, things are going to be heating up. Nate Maurer to the inside of the number 4 of Ben Mashburn. Look at how close they are back there. Stan Hausman almost leaning on the left front of Nick Kessler. Mashburn, who's been very quick here tonight in the Chester's number 4. And oh, Nick Kessler gets shot up the racetrack in the number 88. Maybe they did lean on one another in turn number 3 right there. And Kessler, who is your biggest mover of the race so far, he's going to drop back to 10th behind Vincent Valvano.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of contact through 3 and 4, but that does put Stan Hausman up into the top 5 battle for third between Nate Maurer, Ben Mashburn. Mashburn looking to the inside of Nate Maurer, trying to get that position back. I believe he had it for a second, and I believe he is going to take that position as they head out of 3 and 4. Watch, Stan Hausman might have a run. I don't think so. There goes Doug Neal in the 77 to the inside of Stan Hausman, looking for that 5th place position. Also up front, that battle for the race lead is getting good between Chris Darling and Jason Gracias. Darling has been right on the bumper of Gracias for about 2 laps now. Keeping your eye on this, Darling got a little higher entrance, tries to get the power down on exit, but got caught up in the dirty air of Gracias' truck. But Darling definitely there with only 14 laps to go. Watch Chris Darling. He will probably be aggressive for this race lead. I would expect just about anyone with 14 laps to go. We've seen a lot of patience from drivers here tonight, but getting to this point in the race, drivers are going to be starting to use those corner panels in the bumper more. We saw that with Stan Hausman and Nick Kessler. Meanwhile, Stan Hausman struggling a little bit now. Had a great restart, got up into the top 5, falling back to the 8th position now. Doug Neal in 5th, Matt Cherry 6th, Travis White trying to take the 7th position away from Stan Hausman, and he is going to get it as they head through turns 1 and 2.
So action red hot out there on the racetrack with that good close battle in the mid-pack. Hausman now sliding back to 8th, but then we have this battle up at the front. The 11 of Darling, who really dominated the first half of the race here tonight, Mitchell, and you could say the last half of the race has been dominated by the number 1 of Jason Gracias, but these two on pace, very, very equal. Maybe Darling is a little bit better on the short run and Gracias is a little bit better in the long run, but whichever one of these drivers has been able to get ahead of one another has been able to kind of control the race. We will see whether or not that is the case as we come to just 11 more laps to go. And oh, caution is out. And we're hearing a couple of drivers have been involved in this one. Let's see if it started here around the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Washes up the racetrack. Ooh, gets into Nick Kessler. And oh, they just start stacking him up. Oh my goodness, they're still stacking him up. As looks like Randy Perdue involved, Brandon White in the number 24 involved. And just a little bit of contact there between, looks like the number 33 machine. And let's see if we can put this in 3-wide TV slow motion and see if we can get another angle of it. That's not a very good angle. Oh, that's actually a pretty decent angle. Okay, good job, cameraman. Sliding up the racetrack, and there's the contact right there. And now if we jump back to driver of the number 24, Brandon White. Nowhere for him to go. And gets hit from the front side, gets hit from the back side. And unfortunately, that number 24 truck definitely torn up. And look at this. Goes up heavy into the wall, similar to what we saw to Justin White earlier in the race.
Yeah, just got hit from the front and the rear, I think at least 2 or 3 times during that wreck. So big damage to the 24, 88, 33. Quite a few cars we've seen mixing it up here toward the front of the pack. Josh Sobel, though, was able to check it up and I believe stayed out of that wreck. Even though he's got a damaged race car, he is still in the 11th position. There is the 10 of Monty Glover going through that wreck. The 07 not getting onto the brakes, plowed straight into the 10. You hate to see that for Monty Glover. Did about all he could to get around that wreck, unfortunately. Didn't work out so well for him as we're riding on board again with that 24 as they go through here at speed. You can see that contact, the 33 washes up just a little, and you can see just it all happens so fast. Just split second you have to react to that stuff. And really, in the case of those drivers, there was absolutely nowhere for them to go. They just happened to be in the wrong spot. And that can sometimes be the game here as we get into the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, on board here with Nick Kessler. There's the contact. You see him immediately try and save that truck, but as you can see, it just no time for him to save that truck at all, as they just end up being a little bit of a pinball in turn number 3 and 4. We'll go back live, however, here on 3 Wide TV. As space truck lights continue to twinkle, we will have the restart inside 10 laps to go. That is for sure. We might have Beer Street Journal last calls here tonight. That could be interesting. Rich Sobel in the chat saying, dang it. Yeah, I think Josh might have got a piece of that a little while ago. Definitely, it hasn't been Josh's night here tonight. TJ Buck saying, dang to his engine grenading. And TJ letting Rich know where Josh was in the points. I appreciate that, TJ, as we have been watching what's been happening on the racetrack. Pace truck lights have turned off. TJ saying, my apologies for bringing out that yellow, I believe. TJ, that's just one of those things. Sometimes iRacing calls those, sometimes they don't. I don't really put that one on you. Your engine grenaded. You got off the racetrack. You did what you had to do. Good job there. And you made this race exciting towards the end of the race, that's for sure. So really appreciate you guys stopping in here tonight. Brantley, Rich, TJ, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, and everyone else who has dropped by here tonight. But the Pace truck has turned off its light here, Mitchell, and we're about to get set to go back green. It's going to take the hard left down to pit road. There we go. Man, that thing turns on a dime. And we are back green flag as Jason Gracias and Chris Darling, they're going to be side by side going up to turn number 1. They make contact, and Darling and Gracias going up the racetrack, and we are back under caution, and the 1 and the 11, my drama at the front of the field.
Just like that, the whole picture at the front of the field changes in an instant. Jason Gracias and Chris Darling both got great restarts. Darling was able to hold it on the inside lane of Jason Gracias. We haven't seen Gracias challenged like that into turn 1 as we're dialing it up on the replay here. Just they had to come in together, a bit of a racing deal. We're going to look at it here from above. Gracias gets his nose out. Darling there, though. At this point, you see Darling drives it in hard. Gracias also turning down. It was a combination. They both kind of went for the same spot. They were holding each other really tight. And that is going to completely change this race, because the two drivers we have seen dominate the late stages of this race, and really the whole race, Jason Gracias and Chris Darling, knocked outside of the top 15. Gracias now in the 15th place, Darling 16th. So we're going to ride on board with Chris Darling. You see Jason Gracias fire off there on the outside lane. Darling drives it into turn 1. I don't really know. That's just a racing deal, Peter. 7 laps to go. You know that control of this race, being out front, is so important. That kind of stuff just kind of happens. They both really wanted that position.
Like I said, whoever of these two has been out front has really controlled the race here tonight, and just like that, neither of them control the race no longer, as you see the whole field doing a great job on getting on by. We'll see if we get some onboards here. Let's see if we can go on board with Garrett Gleason in his number 7 machine to see how he was able to squeak on by that. In fact, let's jump up. Let's put it into 3 Wide TV slow-mo. Let's go up to Stan Hausman here, because watch Stan Hausman just squeak by the number 1 of Gracias, the one's coming down the racetrack, and whoop, just like that. And Garrett Gleason in the 7, he squeaks on by as well. I'm sure those drivers are going to need to go to that Doug Milliner Underwear Emporium after the race. But unfortunately, it most likely, unless something absolutely crazy happens, it will not be the night that either Chris Darling or the number 1 of Jason Gracias was hoping for. But I think the big point in all of that, Mitchell, is if you go back to the point standings, remember where Chris Darling was in points here entering tonight. He was outside of the top 14. He's not even on the graphic. Go all the way down to the bottom of the graphic, you'll find Josh Sobel. You will not find Christopher Darling on there. He needed a good points night here tonight, and that, all of a sudden, inside 10 laps to go, has been completely erased.
Yeah, and you can look at that and say Jason Gracias already won and locked himself in. He can race a lot harder in that situation. Chris Darling, though, has to race hard because he wants to lock himself in with a win here today. That 11 has had so much pace, and you need good runs. And you said he's got points to make up, and he was in a position to do that. But, you know, just one more spot, and you don't even have to worry about the points anymore. So it's just an unfortunate situation for both those drivers, but it does make for entertaining racing for us. Meanwhile, it's not a Beer Street Journal last call here, but we are going to get a restart with 2 laps to go, green-white checkered. And it is going to be Ben Mashburn in the 4 who inherits the race lead. We've seen Mashburn in the 4th, 5th. He's been up in the top 5 today. Nate Maurer started 3rd on that last restart. Those two going to start on the front row. Mashburn takes it to the inside as we are about to go green for a green-white checkered here at Milwaukee. There it is.
Yeah, that's just one of those racetracks. And Ben Mashburn leading his first couple of laps here tonight. What a story this might be. Green flag is in the air, and the Chesters, number 4, just 2 laps away from a winner. Chester's Chicken Dinner. Can he hold on? Nate Maurer is in second. Doug Neal in the number 77 now back up into the top 3 in his Simbach Chevrolet. Here comes Maurer looking to the inside, but Mashburn throws a block. We're coming around to the white flag. Maurer with a great run through the center of turn number 3 and 4. Can he look to the inside here? Coming out of turn number 4. Looks like he's got a nose to the inside. No, he does not. The 4 of Mashburn throws a block going off into turn number 1. White flag is out.
Mashburn defending that inside lane with all he's got. Nate Maurer trying to set him up here. Could get a good run, trying to get the gas down, both up really close to the wall. Mashburn defending the lower line. There goes Maurer trying to get to it. Mashburn going to take it. Will he give him the bumper? No, I'm surprised. Nate Maurer holds back, doesn't move him yet, but he will have the run coming out of turn 4 as they drag race down to the start-finish line. Contact made. Mashburn spinning into the infield wall, but it will be Ben Mashburn. Oh, as they absolutely die on the start-finish line and headed into turn 1, but it is that number 4 of Ben Mashburn who wins in a dramatic fashion here at Milwaukee. What a race we just saw there, Peter. Down to the wire. There, Mashburn still has an engine left. I am surprised, but man, what a piece of driving we just saw from him there.
He just drives it backwards to the flagman before doing burnouts. Holy smokes, have you ever? I'm going to repeat what I heard a couple of years ago, and that is, no, I have never. Side by side, right to the line. Maurer did what he had to try and do to get the win. He's going to come home in second. Doug Neal in third. So how about that for the Simbox machines finishing second and third? What a crazy dash for the end. We're going to have to get a replay of that one. That is for sure. Holy smokes. That was one heck of a finish. Here we go. Let's go back to the 3-wide TV. Run to the checkered flag and see if we could see what all went down here. Well, it's not being all too kind to me. Oh, there we go. There we go. How about this? Coming down the backstretch, the number 4, throwing that huge block right there on the 971 of Nathan Maurer, throws that block, but that washes out the race. Look at Travis White in the 23, just completely sending it around the outside. But Maurer gets a great run coming out of the corner. Mashburn washes up the racetrack, and they're just going to be side by side here. Look at Doug Neal getting back by the number 23. Matt Cherry also squeaking his way up towards the front of the field at the end. There's the contact between the 4 and the 971, and the winning moment here tonight, folks. Right there, the number 4 winner, Chester's Chicken Dinner here on 3 Wide here tonight. Nathan Maurer coming up a little bit short. Doug Neal keeping his number 77 under power. There we go. Then watch what happens here. Watch all these cars here, folks. Because doink, 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 and more doinks. As Garrett Gleason almost goes up and over. Just cars going everywhere. Doug Milliner joining the party there. Holy cow, what a finish. And you want to know what's funny, Mitchell? Before the start of the race, I was actually got a quick word with Ben Mashburn. And you know what he said about this race here tonight? He said, you know what? I don't like this place. I hate this place. He said, I'm not gonna be in the running here tonight. He didn't think so. But here he is in victory lane. What a crazy finish. Now, it will, of course, go to a post-race review, so results are not exactly official just yet, Mitchell. I hate to tell you that. After last night's race.
That's good to know. Good to know. Thank you. Before we jump to conclusions here,
just
Pete.
Before we jump to conclusions, because we don't know. I mean, we don't know. We didn't know this time last night. But you know what? It was absolutely crazy. Let's see if we can bring in tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 77 machine. That, of course, being Doug Neal from the Atlanta, Georgia area. I'm sure he's going to be one happy camper. Doug Neal, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you, buddy.
Well, what a crazy last 15 or so laps. It was a strong night for you in the 77. You had a terrible final pit stop. You fell all the way back to 7th, but you worked your way onto the podium there late in the show. Talk us through your race.
Well, I got a black flag right there going into the pits, and because I forgot who it was on my outside, it was a lap down, but he wouldn't keep up. And I was trying to keep up with the leaders going into the pit, and they threw a black flag on me. So, but they cleared it for me. So luckily, because they weren't keeping up. But yeah, I just tried to save my tires as much as I could, and tried to lay back some and let those guys take off. And I would catch Ben midway through a run a couple of times there, but he was pretty strong right there at the end. It was a lot of fun. That was a fun race. I hate that what happened to Jason and Chris right there. That sucked, but that's part of racing, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely was pretty crazy what all happened there late in the race. But you know, that's what happens sometimes when you come to these racetracks and you get these late race cautions. Cautions breed cautions. The intensity heats up. That's for sure. You know, what'd you think of this place here tonight? It definitely is a different racetrack, and it races very differently, and it seemed to suit your driving style.
I love flat tracks like New Hampshire and Pocono and Milwaukee. I love these kind of tracks. It's ones I run better at as far as like the intermediate or short tracks go if they're flat. I don't know what it is on a mile and a half. I just can't keep up. But no, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a great race. I mean, I don't know how many cautions there was. It didn't seem like there was that many until the last few laps. But yeah, it was a good, clean race. I enjoyed this track.
Yeah, well, definitely a very strong run here inside at Milwaukee. Next week we go to the Texas Motor Speedway mile and a half. What are your thoughts about Texas?
I'm terrible at Texas. I hate Texas and Kentucky are my two least favorite tracks. So, I'll try to just do what I can. Hopefully top 15, maybe. That's about all I got.
Well, you know, Mashburn told me before the drop of the green flag that he hated this place, and he ended up going to Victory Lane. So who knows? We might see you in Victory Lane next week, Doug. But before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout-out to?
Just my teammates, Nate and Travis White. I had a run on Nate coming off of 2 there on that last lap. He pushed up high, and I had a run on him, but I knew he was going to come down in front of me, so I kind of lifted. But, yeah, we always race good together. Those guys do. And, of course, my company, SimBox, if anybody's looking for a button box, I'd be glad to help them out. Just give me a message on Facebook, and we'll get you fixed up.
Absolutely. Get yourself a Simbox button box, that's for sure, especially if you run in VR. I don't know if you do, Doug, but having those button boxes in VR, absolutely essential to your iRacing rig. Best of luck next week at Texas, Doug.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, that's going to do it with driver of the number 77 machine here tonight, finishing in third, but I believe that Mitchell Adams has caught up with Doug's teammate, the 971, and Nathan Maurer there, Mitchell.
Yeah, Nathan Maurer, Mitchell Adams in the 3Y TV booth. Do you have a copy?
I got you, Mitchell. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing after that insane finish you just put on for us?
Very happy for Ben to win a race. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I was trying to trick him. I didn't want to wreck him. I accidentally almost did wipe him out like once or twice there because he was going so slow just to protect that inside line. And then I just tried everything I could on the outside and tried to make it a little bit exciting there at the end. I waited till the end to give him right front fender, so I knew that it wouldn't cost him to win. I just wanted to have a big wreck there at the finish.
It definitely was very exciting. I was just sitting up here and waiting for you to use the bumper and waiting for you to use the bumper.
I don't race that way. At least I try not to. If I ever do, it's accidental. I could have paid him back. He dove bombed me there before that last caution came out and took over third position, and kept on telling him I'm gonna pay him back, but I just never did. I'm just glad to see Ben win a race. It was kind of awesome to see Chris and Jason get wiped out, knowing that it's me, Ben, and my two other teammates right behind us. So I'm just very happy for Ben tonight.
It was definitely a good result for you and your teammates tonight. Just talk about the race overall. What'd you think of this track? And we know you came away with a good result, but what was kind of your strategy going through it tonight?
The whole strategy was trying to figure out 3 and 4. Me and Doug practiced for about an hour before the race tonight, and he was killing me by 2/10 every lap in 3 and 4. I just could not figure. I still can't figure out 3 and 4. I tried going slower. I tried going faster. I tried lowering the brake bias to get the car to turn better. Truck to turn better. I just couldn't figure it out. The whole strategy was just to not get dumped from behind, and when someone's battling you and no one else is real close behind you, just let them go so you don't get freight trained. I got freight trained once early on in the race just by letting one guy go that had like 3 cars right behind him, and I fell back like 9th, and and not getting loose off the corners here. After about 25 laps, the back end just seemed like it wanted to get loose on you.
It definitely seemed like you kind of figured it out toward the end. Really enjoyed watching you do your thing tonight and putting on a show for us. And before we let you go, any shout-outs here for us on 3Y TV?
Yeah, first and foremost, my number 1 teammate, Doug Neal. He definitely would have finished third tonight if the two guys wouldn't have wrecked each other there. Doug's really good at these short tracks. Well, I guess it's considered a short track. He's good at the flat tracks. Let's put it that way. You guys, Peter and I guess Mitchell. I guess you help broadcast now. I don't know. I rarely ever talk to you guys because I suck so much. And my other teammates, Travis and Justin. Justin got the short end of the stick tonight, unfortunately. Chris Darling for running this league, and I guess that's it.
Well, thank you for talking with us, and go celebrate your second place finish.
First loser, nothing to celebrate. Have a good night, guys.
You too.
All right, that's going to do it with the 971 machine of Nathan Maurer. Sorry to cut you off there, Mitchell, but it's time for us to go down to Victory Lane, where Ben Mashburn is absolutely celebrating up a storm. Tonight's winner, my oh my, Ben, I will paraphrase. At the beginning of the night, I asked you whether or not tonight would be a Becoming Dr. Mashburn podcast Drive to Top 5 challenge. And I'm paraphrasing here, but what was said was, no, tonight is not one of those because there's no way I'm going to win back my wife's money. That was said by you. And of course, you didn't start on the poll, but you said you hated this place. You're in Victory Lane. Tell us about it.
Pretty wild turn of events, man. Hated it for one reason because I just bought it. I never raced here, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Practice didn't go too well. I think I was like 17th, 18th fastest, and then come out and qualify 5th. Kind of surprised myself. Just kind of hung around up front all night. I was pretty quick. My problem was saving tires, so I was kind of gifted those cautions there at the end. That kept me in it, and then I was gifted the race lead. So that was it was a hectic race. It was green flag for a while, long run. So kind of got hectic there at the end, but like I said, I kind of got lucky on that end of the spectrum.
I think you got a little bit more than lucky. Definitely had a lot of pace, and I've said it a couple of times here over the last 15 minutes, but winner, winner, Chester's Chicken Dinner. How cool is it to say that in Victory Lane?
It's awesome, man. Chris came to me this offseason and asked me what I wanted to do for my truck this season, and one, I wanted to change the number. I wanted a single digit, and then I wanted to go with a different kind of theme that nobody really thought of, and let's go with gas station chicken. So Chester's it was. Shout out to Chester's, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to run Raising Cane's, and my favorite thing to do in Victory Lane was say, winner, winner, Cane's Chicken Dinner. So now you get to carry on that torch with Chester on your number 4 machine here tonight, getting the job done. Next week we go to Texas Motor Speedway. I know you've had mixed results at Texas Motor Speedway over the history here of the National Sim Racing Association. What are your thoughts of the new Texas?
Well, me and Nate were kind of talking right there in the little waiting thing while you guys are interviewing Doug, and I said, I don't really like Texas, and he said, well, you said you didn't like this place and you won, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can have another good run, but it feels good to be locked into the playoffs. So, I mean, if I run good, cool. If I don't run good, cool. I'm in the playoffs. That was really the ultimate goal of the season. I feel like I've been right there on the cusp and never actually made it for whatever reason, just had some rotten luck. But we're there finally, so it feels really good.
Yeah, and you know, I think last season we had 8 different winners in the first 8 races. Well, we make it 4 different winners in the first 4 races. So definitely off to a great start here in the 2021B Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series on 3 Wide TV. Ben, before we let you go celebrate your win here tonight, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
For sure, man. MaxGrafix racing team. Feels good to bring home a win for them. Chris designing and painting up the good old winner chicken Chester's winter paint scheme there we got. Dr. Mash, make sure you guys check out Becoming Dr. Mashburn podcast. It's my wife's podcast on her journey to becoming a psychologist. So being a mother, so it's pretty interesting. Want to give a huge shout out to Nate right there. That was unbelievably fun, and Nate is a super respectful racer, and it's always super fun to race next to him. So it was awesome to finish in style, and I appreciate Nate there with the good, clean racing there at the end. And you guys broadcasting do a heck of a job, and appreciate Stay Tuned. Obviously, wouldn't have a broadcast without Stay Tuned and you guys both, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun up here in the booth. A lot of fun watching you guys out there on the racetrack. We have to stay on our toes because we never know how it's going to wrap up here in the National Sim Racing Association. Congratulations on your win here tonight, Ben. We'll see you next week at Texas.
I appreciate it, Peter. Mitchell, you guys have a great night.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our post-race interviews. And how awesome was that here tonight, Mitchell? Again, keeping us on our toes all the way until the drop of the checkered flag at the end of the show. But we do need to bring up the final race results and go through some of the post-race things that we always go through here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Ben Mashburn takes home the win. First win of the season for the number 4 machine. Nathan Maurer, they were spinning across the line to end the race here tonight. He's going to finish second. Doug Neal coming home in third. Travis White, teammate to Maurer and Neal, coming home in fourth. Cherry in fifth. Stan Hausman coming home in a very respectable 6th spot. Jeffrey Johnson Jr., also strong night for him in 7th. Vincent Valvano in 8th. Josh Sobel, a little bit of a recovery late in the race for him to finish 9th. Jason Gracias, Chris Darling, those 2 drivers who led pretty much the majority, in fact, by far the majority of tonight's race, finishing 10th and 11th there, Mitchell.
Yeah, and then Garrett Gleason followed them to the finish in the 12th position with Adam Dama in 13th. William Kerwin had a pretty silent night, but ended up with a good finish there in the 14th position. Monty Glover followed him into 15th. Randy Perdue 16th. Doug Milliner 17th. Nick Kessler 18th. And Brandon White ended up 19th, with TJ Buck rounding out your top 20. Justin White finished 21st, Johnny Williams 22nd, Randy Bledsoe 23rd, Phillip Scott, who we saw mix it up for the lead, ended up 71 laps down in the 24th position. And that is going to do it for your field here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile.
Yeah, unfortunately for Phillip Scott, who was our Craig's setupshop.co.uk poll award winner at the top of the show, Phillip goes from first to worst here tonight with that 24th place finish. Definitely not something to be all too excited about. However, one driver gets the award of being the biggest mover of the race, and for a majority of the night, the biggest mover of the race was Nick Kessler, but as the dust settled, it was not Nick Kessler. It was actually, that's the wrong one. Let's dial up the right one, shall we? There we go. Taz Racing Customs Biggest mover of the race award goes to driver of the number 23, Travis White, plus 11 spots from 15th to 4th at the checkered flag here tonight. So we want to give a big shout out to not only Taz Racing Customs, but Travis White for winning that award here tonight. If you want a custom diecast, make sure you check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs for all your custom diecast needs. There's a link in the description to their Facebook page where you can get in contact with the folks over at Taz Racing Customs for your custom diecasts, and they are extremely cool. Definitely check them out on Facebook here tonight. But a wacky, zany end to the race here tonight. We saw contact, Mitchell, between Phillip Scott, Chris Darling early in the race. We saw late race contact between Chris Darling and Jason Gracias. The front wasn't where you exactly wanted to be here tonight. Even though those drivers dominated the race, it was Ben Mashburn only leading about 7 laps, getting the job done.
Yeah, sometimes 7 laps is all it takes. You saw the drivers up front seem to control the race, but they couldn't keep the problems away. Ben Mashburn, Nate Maurer, Doug Neal, all of those drivers were there to capitalize, and they're all going to come away with great finishes tonight. But Ben Mashburn, great win. He took that lead, but he had to fight for it. So great race all around, and I was really glad to be up here in the booth for it.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun having you up here in the booth, Mitchell. Drew Eisenman will be back next week. We wish him best of luck tomorrow in his exam, trying to get into law school. So I can never remember which one that is in the all the different standardized tests that they have across the nation. But we do want to wish Drew the best of luck on that tomorrow and his endeavors on getting into law school. But like I said, he'll be back next week at the Texas Motor Speedway at 9 o'clock Eastern, October 15th, right here on the channel. If no other sponsor comes around, it will be the Doug Milliner's Underwear Emporium 200 at the Texas Motor Speedway. So if anyone else wants to get in there and start a bidding war to trump the Underwear Emporium, be my guest. But hey, it is what it is. We thank each and every one of you for joining us here tonight on 3White TV. We had Sticky J23 in the chat here tonight, Rich Sobel, Josh Sobel, checking in there late. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports and Stay Tuned Sports Podcast in the chat. Garrett Gleason in the chat after the race, TJ Buck, Phillip Scott. I mean, a whole bunch of people here tonight. We really do appreciate it. We had 18 likes here tonight. You guys are awesome. Just hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel. We cannot do it without you guys. We thoroughly appreciate it. And we love being up here in the booth. But until we meet again out here on the racetrack or on 3Wide TV, folks, stay safe, and we shall see ya.